I'm not sure exactly if there had been some discussions previously that I could open up and answer specific questions about within mental health needs of our school, or if you just want me to just jump off the handle and go whatever direction you'd like me to.
Yes.
Well, I think, Val, one of the questions that were asked is, one, what needs are you seeing? Because, you know, not only do we have some movers and shakers in our community, but this does get posted online and shared. So any needs that you see, and then I guess generally how you sense that things are going, as much as you feel comfortable sharing from a mental health perspective.
Okay, and as far as needs go, are you specific to mental health needs or any needs at all?
I mean, there has been a focus in the past on mental health, but I think at this point we're really wanting to know, you know, with the onset of COVID, just some needs in general.
Okay.
What we're seeing.
Sure. Okay, so in starting with mental health, you know, I'm really proud of the fact that I think Roswell High School Above and Beyond has a really good touchstone on mental health support and services for our community and our students specifically. I will certainly say that, you know, our mental health needs have continued to increase as students and parents and, you know, staff and teachers and social workers are dealing with the stress of a pandemic. You know, it's been a hard transition for so many of our students. So we have seen an increase in referrals to mental health providers. We have a really good process here at Roswell. We've got lots of private mental health providers that are on our referral lists that are sorted by insurance and specialty. So we have families that reach out to either school counselor or to myself directly to ask for a list of potential providers for their child. And we're able to get those back usually within 24 hours, pretty quickly. And then we also have a partnership that has shifted a little bit, and we, you know, we'll look at providing more information in the future, but we have a school-based mental health partnership that will be changing a little bit in the coming months with a new program provider. And they serve our students who are primarily covered by state-funded insurance. So those would be Medicaid and Peach Care, those types of things. We have a strong focus with our mental health provider on our Hispanic community and providing services in Spanish to both students and to parents. And then we also have therapists that work with students, of course, that don't speak Spanish. So, but we have a really good focus on students who are brand new ESOL students. And our goal is to have a group for students who are coming from other countries, just on kind of how to assimilate into our culture, into our school, and how to deal with maybe previous trauma from you know, their world before coming to land in Roswell as their home. And then also a parenting group that's going to be in Spanish for parents on how to support Spanish-speaking teens and goals and their education. So hopefully that will happen in January. We're hopeful. So did that answer the questions on mental health side of things? Sort of, yes. Any questions about that?
Do you feel like the partnerships are basically covering the need, or?
Definitely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not aware of any issues that have come up as far as not covering the needs. We are very, very fast on meeting whatever needs that we hear about. So regardless of how small or big, or, you know, if we're dealing with a student who's just dealing with you know, some stress or anxiety related to online learning, or stress that's going on within families that are dealing with medical issues, or all the way to students who are having, you know, very extreme mental health issues with hospitalizations and suicidal ideations. You know, I think, have done a dynamic job and are very fast to address those needs and get the resources they need.
Hey, and Val, could you talk about, because we had this conversation as a governance council last time about communication and getting kids engaged, and you and I had this conversation today.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just could you share what you're seeing as far as kids from a social emotional point, being engaged in school, being engaged in what they're doing in the classroom, whether they're URL or in person, just kind of your observations. I think that would help this group as, we have to make some decisions about resources and setting some goals.
Yeah, it's definitely been a challenge for sure, this semester, and even speaking to, the end of last semester, it's like nothing we've ever seen, right? I will say students tend to, or what I have seen is that they tend to communicate with whom they're most comfortable with. So, I've gotten a number of emails today from specific teachers of students who have shared their struggles and why they haven't been engaged, or why they, are maybe lacking in certain assignments or aren't as caught up. And, the teachers are doing a really great job about passing those along to me or the counselor, just to make sure that priority number one is meeting their mental health needs, and then dealing with the academic piece afterwards. I am certainly seeing a lot of lack of engagement from students that were kind of on the fence with academics anyway. And then going all the way to the far extreme of kids that we are just seeing a total lack of engagement from. One example I can give that I've seen over and over are students who may have not been so successful academically, but then they are over the last 9 months have had the opportunity to maybe work full time and have been essential workers in, fast food restaurants or grocery stores and things like that. And they have seen such an increase in their income, not only for themselves, but for their families. And then now having to shift backwards and prioritize school and to spend that time and reduce their income for their families has been a really, really hard shift. And we've seen a lot of students who just are not able to make that shift. And so that has been a huge barrier for a lot of kids that I've seen. Any other questions?
I think that the other side that some people were worried about last time were the high achieving students that were feeling disengaged and what that was doing to them. Have you guys seen any of that in your office?
Yeah, for sure. I would say that the counselors probably deal with that more than I do as the social worker, in trying to help with the high achieving kids and keeping them connected with their AP classes, their honors classes, those types of things. I know kids, the rumors go through, kids, and they only have to do a certain number of assignments, and that they only, that they have the ability to do recovery, and that I've heard from some students that they have been frustrated with peers sort of taking advantage of that. I had a long conversation with a student today who felt like she was trying her very best and doing everything she could to get extra credit, but that she felt some of her classmates were kind of taking advantage of it and frustrating her teacher. So I don't know that I really answered that question, Val, but
Yeah.
I don't see as much of that
Yeah.
on my end of the social work spectrum, but I do know that the school counselors are dealing with that a lot for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions that I can answer from my end on the mental health side of things? I think in regards to other resources and needs for our community, we do have a lot of resources around this time every year, much less in the pandemic. So we are seeing a lot of resources from Fulton County Schools and programs like Purposity, which is the app that we have to match needs of students with donors on Amazon. That has been a really successful push, especially with the holidays coming up. And we tend to have lots of donations around Thanksgiving and the winter holidays. So this is when we, thankfully there are needs and we are able to meet them. And then we have a great partnership with North Fulton Charities and all that they do for our community for holiday assistance. There's lots of turkey giveaways. I probably could name 10 at the moment. So if anybody needs a turkey, I know where to get them. But we've got, a lot of needs right now, but I think we have lots of resources right now, and that is a great place to be.
Well, then I think that addresses a lot of the questions that we had and kind of concerns as we kind of move into our goal setting for the year. But thank you very much.
Thank you. If I can ever do anything, please don't hesitate to let me know.
Okay.
Thanks, Val.
All right, take care. Bye.
Bye, Val.
Bye. Well, Dr. Shaw, I still don't know if we can vote on anything, but we have a couple of discussion items. You think we could go ahead and do like your presentation and
I think we can. And did we have to vote on Lindsay, or did we just say we're good? I don't remember what Hannah said about that.
I think Hannah said that you just have to appoint her and
Okay. Well,
that's it.
if we need to redo it at the next meeting, if I break some rule, I certainly, we can. As I shared last time, Emily Kennedy has resigned her position. So as Hannah Zay explained, I have the ability to pick a staff member, and very excited that Lindsay Davis Bryan has agreed to serve on this council again. She was here for a while and did a fantastic job. If you don't know her, she is one of our department chairs. She's over our ESL department, really truly does a fantastic job and is really at the heart of a lot of the work that we do. So it's great to have Lindsay back on here, and I know she did a great job, and I appreciate her taking the time to do it. So welcome back there, Lindsay.
Yay, Lindsay.
Thank you, guys. I'm happy to be back.
Oh, good deal. All right, so do you want me to go ahead and now with Lindsay on here, Laura, can we vote now, or are we still short?
I guess I need to look up what the exact number is, but that
It's a
we'll still be
majority.
missing 3 people, but that seems like that might be enough for a majority, right?
Yeah,
That
it's a
performance?
majority of the voting members. So I'm not a voting member. You are. Ms. Panic is. Dr. Williams is. Ms. Hartigan is. Lindsay now is. Dylan is. Darlene, Ms. Trigg is. Pardon me. Ms. Gerard is. Ms. Pettit is. So that's 9. So what's a majority of that?
So we 5.
Yeah.
We got 1, 2, 3. I'm only seeing 4. What am I missing? Oh, 5. Miss Trigg is listed down here. So we should be good. Okay, well then we'll go ahead and officially call our meeting to order at 4:20, I guess. And start with, do we have a motion to approve the agenda for today? And you should see it on your screen, and it was emailed out as well. Any motion?
I motion.
It's on the website if you need to find it. It's on.
Okay, so Val, and do we have a second?
I'll second Darlene Trigg.
Okay. So anyone against approving the agenda? We'll just do it that way for virtual sake. Okay, then I say our agenda is approved. And now we need to vote to approve the meeting minutes that Dr. Williams emailed out earlier this week from October 28th meeting. Do we have a motion? Do we have a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the last meeting?
A motion.
Okay, so Val, and a second.
I'll second Trigg.
And so let's vote on the meeting minutes. Is there anyone against approving the meeting minutes? Okay, then I think all voting members approved that. What's on here? Informational meeting, board communication, flexibility, and meeting norms are listed on this agenda. So I'm not going to read those off to you, but we will go ahead and move on to public comment then. So Dr. Shaw, did you get anything in your?
I have it open right now, ma'am, and there's nobody has submitted anything.
Okay, do any of our guests have public comment?
Yeah, I'd like to just say a brief thing. I want to say hello to everybody. It's good to see everyone again. I didn't have a comment coming into the meeting, but listening to Ms. Rogers speak, I just want to reiterate how happy I am to see that mental health issue continuing to grow and expand the services to the kids at Roswell High School. That was near and dear to my heart way back when I started, and just happy to see that continue. And I noticed you guys are doing good work there. And that's all I got. Thanks.
Okay, thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Worth. Anyone else? Okay, well then I'd say we can move on to the principal's update, Dr. Shaw.
All right. So a couple of things. First, just talk about construction briefly. So if you've been on campus, you can tell that the construction has started. There's still a couple of permits that they're waiting on, but for the most part, they have what they need to get started. They've already started to turn some ground over on the where the black box theater will go. So if you had a chance to look at that, the fencing is up, the trailer is in for the construction people. So all of that is moving. A couple of things that unfortunately as construction tends to happen is the tennis courts. The hope was to have that done and ready for the kids to play. But unfortunately the product they use, you can't put it down in cold weather. So Ben Suter is working with our tennis coaches to try and find another place or another way to schedule it. You know, it's unfortunate. In the courts right now, the number one hope is that we can get the courts repaired at least for one more year to be playable. And that's what we've done the last couple of years, but we're still working on getting that done. So that is the hope. But other than that, construction is rolling, and actually Mr. Zarzana, who's over facilities, has a pretty good relationship with the folks that are leading that effort, and they talk pretty regularly. So you will see things really start to change here, especially after Thanksgiving with construction. I wanted to talk a little bit about the budget, because one of the questions that was posed was about COVID and what the school has spent. So I hope you can see this. Dr. Williams, I sent this document to Ms. Hunter, so you'll have it for the official records. Hopefully this will come up. Can you see an Excel spreadsheet there, good people?
Yes, we can see it.
Marvelous. All right. So just for sake of argument, one of the things that is important to break down is you see up here what's called cost center and local. So the simplest way to think about it is cost center are taxpayer provided dollars. So this is the budget that the Governance Council approves, right, when we do it back in February or March. So that's a mixture of state, federal, local revenue. The local budget is what Roswell High School generates on our own. So this is vending, snack sales, picture money. Also, every club goes into this. Now, I don't use those funds. Those funds stay with the club, but they all go under the local umbrella. And the same with athletics. Athletics money goes into this local account. So when you buy a ticket, and of course, as you can imagine, sales are way down this year, but that money goes into local. Again, I don't use it for anything. It stays with athletics, but it all goes under the local umbrella. So what you see here, the top chart, and again, I really want to thank Ms. Munker for putting this together on short notice, is what we have spent last year out of last year's fiscal budget. So if you remember, the fiscal year goes from July 1st to June 30th. So that is the school district and most state agencies, that's their fiscal year. So this is what we have spent on various items. And like I said, this document will be available to everybody. Sneeze guards for the front office, hand sanitizer. So this column on the left, 11,472 came out of local dollars, and this here, cost center dollars, I apologize, and this is local. The other thing is monthly, the school is paying for our counselors, our Hispanic liaisons, and our IST to have a cell phone. This is especially when we were in lockdown or whatever the case may be, they don't have to use their home phone to make calls, so they have a school cell phone to reach out to folks. So that gives you a good idea of some of the money that has been spent. And I will also say that some of this, a small amount of it has been replaced by the district. Down here is the last quarter of fiscal year. Well, I went the wrong way. This is this year. This is fiscal year 21. This is the last quarter of fiscal year 20. So this would have been the last 3 months. All cost center, as you could tell here. So everything from Sharpies to $162 worth of Sharpies and labels so we could get bags to collect devices from the kids. Thermometers, spray bottles, sanitizer for athletics is pretty expensive stuff. So this just gives you an idea of how much money was spent. And again, this year, fiscal year 21 to this point, we're at $11,000. Now, Where does that money come from? Well, what we have done currently is we've frozen the accounts for the department chair. So every department chair gets a certain amount of money. And what we've said is you can spend 50% of it now and then hold off and see what we're doing. Now, again, the good news is that we seem to be financially okay. My goal is to give you an overall where we are on the cost center budget, but Ms. Munker and I have met and talked and sat and looked through the numbers. And the crux of this is even spending $11,000, I don't think it's going to be anything where the kids or the staff aren't going to get stuff that they need. Even though we're spending this much. Like I said, the district has given us a little of it back, and there's been some other funds that have come into cost center to cover this. So questions then on what we spent on COVID and COVID supplies and things like that.
I don't think so.
Okay, great. Then the other thing I'd like to really talk about is, as you're aware, last week, the state released graduation rates, and unfortunately, was not what we had hoped for, but I want to talk through that and share it with you real quick. So just a reminder, and for those of you who've been around for a little while, this is probably not new, but when you talk about the graduation rate, what we're talking about today is the 4-year graduation rate. So that is, by federal law, a cohort. So when Haley and Kirsten started in the 9th grade, they were part of that 9th grade cohort. And to get credit, we got to get them out of here in 4 years. Now, there is a 5-year graduation rate, but the 4-year graduation rate is much heavily rated. And honestly, we're not funded to have kids here for 5 years. So the goal is to get them in and out in 4. So, and again, this is by federal law. Students who graduate through August of their senior year are counted. So even if a student doesn't walk in May, if they go to summer school, if they do credit repair, credit recovery, we get them done. And there's really 2 parts to it, right? So the first part is the paper chase. And what I mean by that is Barb Townsend, who's our registrar, one of her biggest jobs is to make sure we have documentation if kids leave us and enroll somewhere else. Usually that's the form of a records request, right? So a student leaves Roswell High School, goes to Lassiter or Pebblebrook or somewhere in Indiana. They send us a request, for records, and that's proof that they no longer count as a dropout for us. What you see on the right is one of the things that principals have to do every year is check the codes. So if it has a star by it, these students count as dropouts. If it doesn't have a star by it, it does not count as a dropout. So for example, if a student is incarcerated, that's an I with a star there, that's counted as a dropout. If a student joins the military, if a student gets their GED, that's an O. If a student gets pregnant and drops out of school, that counts against us. If there's a court issue or transferred to another school, that does not count against us. So that's what those codes mean. And that's a big part of what Barb and I and the counselors, I get a report every month from Ms. Townsend that says, here's the kids who withdrawn and here's the codes that we're using. The other part of this that we have done a really good job of is offering instructional opportunities for kids to recover, remediate, summer school, virtual school. We have Sandra Davis runs our lab where a lot of kids are in there recovering credits. We have a pretty liberal recovery policy. So we've done a lot of work to try and make sure kids have those instructional opportunities to graduate within 4 years. So this year, our rate dropped to 88.3. Now, you know, we had it last year, we got it to 91. And if you go back and look at 2018, we're right about where we were. And if you see the rankings, we're about where we were. We put a lot of work. And again, those are folks who have been involved with the Governance Council or even PTSA and our staff members, you know, that 2019, we really worked hard to get this rate up. We got it to 91, which is the highest it's been for a while. And then it dropped significantly. And we can talk about the reasons. Let me be honest with you. We haven't really taken this apart enough to be able to definitively look at it and say, these are the reasons or these aren't the reasons. We have some anecdotal thoughts, which I'll be happy to share with this group. This is where we rank in the county, not at all where we want to be. We want to be at or near the top. But this was shared with the community and it was shared with the staff as well. And then this is something I play with a lot. It's a website called Schools Like Mine, right? So what does that mean? That means that you can go to this website, which is put forth by the Governor's Office of Student Achievement, And you can look at schools that have similar demographics, similar, for example, ELL populations, special ed populations, free reduced lunch populations, similar enrollments. And when you look at that, these are some of the schools that come up. So some of them are right around the corner: Etowah, Kell, River Ridge, Cherokee. Again, definitely not where we want to be. And ironically, we met with the principal at Etowah 2 years ago because he wanted to know how we got our graduation rate up. And I guess we gave him good advice because there they are. We got this the other day. This is the demographic breakdowns of that. So all students is 88.3. And then if you look at this, this is by the groups that the federal government requires that the state of Georgia track. So ELL, Hispanic, multiracial, students with disability, commonly referred to as special ed, white students, etc. So no data means we didn't have enough students in that subgroup to qualify. This is where it's really interesting for me. This is a comparison of 2020 and 2019. So 2019, we were at rounded up to a 91, 2020, 88.3. And I did share this with the staff as well. So unfortunately, the red numbers didn't carry over here when I copied it, and I apologize. But you can eyeball it from 2019 to 2020. We had our African American population, a pretty significant drop of 11.9, but we also had a pretty good increase in our ELL population, in our Hispanic population, a little bit of a jump, and our students with disabilities. And we have put a lot, and Lindsay's on this group, we put a lot of effort and resources and time into helping those groups improve their graduation rate. So there's also a drop in the white students. So that's where the increases and decreases occurred with our student demographics. So what does that mean? Let me and again, this is not database because we haven't really had a chance to do the data. So why did we see such a significant drop, right? Well, first of all, what we can't say is COVID, because all of these schools were dealing with COVID. A couple of things that I think we needed to talk about and have talked about. One of them is we had a very large number of our kids who disengaged. And to be honest, we still have some that are, and I think Val alluded to that. I was speaking to a teacher today who a student said that they're working during the day, so they don't have time, but can the teacher meet them at to go over what they did in class, right? So I think we're having a really difficult time with engagement of students. You know, I also think that we need to, again, what we did 2 years ago is we had a group that came together and really looked at our tangible supports for kids that are struggling, looping in the counselors, looping in Val, looping in, of course, our ELL and our special ed leaders, and then also having a conversation, a good conversation that about our climate and our culture and what are we doing to support kids in every way that we can. The other thing that came out of this, and I'm not making excuses, I'm just saying, is we spent most of last year coming up with a really good plan to use our study hall, and COVID kind of blew that up without having the kids in the building when the school year started. And I will tell you that there's a couple of things that we were talking about doing. We're meeting tomorrow with the department chairs to try and put some more supports in place and use our time a little differently to try and get some supports for kids who need some extra help. To really now what we're talking about is clearing those incompletes and getting kids plugged back in. So here's what I will say. Not crazy, that's an understatement. Not happy at all with the drop in our graduation rate, but we've been down this road before. We have the people, we have the resources, we've got the support. I'm very confident that for the class of 2021 that we can get it back up to where it should be, if not higher. And that's the work that we're going to engage in and truthfully have already started. So that's the principal's update on graduation rate. And you may have some questions, so I will happily try to take some of those questions if I can. Okay, well, I guess I explained it really well. So, you know, like I said, we're not content with that at all, and we're focused on even with the obstacles in our way. You know, here's the other thing I really need to say. I spent too much time on numbers. If you have a student who drops out of high school, you're almost guaranteeing that they're going to be in poverty. There's statistics out there that says a student without a high school diploma is actually going to be less healthy, less inclined to get medical care, and can actually, you know, increase the chances of them dying prematurely. So it is important that we do everything we can to get every single kid a high school diploma, or at least a GED, but preferably, of course, a high school diploma. So it's more than just about numbers. It's literally about kids' lives. And so that's the work that we need to continue to focus on and get that number up, not for the purposes solely of a number or not for comparing ourselves to other schools down the street, but to making sure our kids are taken care of and they have the opportunities. So I will close with that. But any questions or anything else that you want to know that's going on, I'd be happy to answer the best I can.
Dr. Shaw, earlier you mentioned something about you have some theories of why you think that the graduation rate dropped. Do you want to briefly
Lindsay,
talk about some of those?
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you. The biggest one is the engagement piece. I think what we saw in March, and again, there's another theory as well. But I think a lot of our kids just unplugged. A lot of them thought it was spring break. A lot of them went to work, which Val mentioned. A lot of them just didn't have that sense of urgency to get this done. Now, what this doesn't tell you is who graduated who maybe got their GED or whatever the case may be. I also will tell you that, and I'll just be very candid, is some schools have very, very liberal recovery policies. Like what we will say at Roswell is if you have a 60 to 69, then you can do recovery. That's not really recovery. Yeah, it's repair actually, but you can do that. Some schools, they have a much bigger range, right? They'll do kids who have a 40 or even lower. We as a leadership team talked about that 2 summers ago when we worked on a lot of this. And it's a balance, right? You want to make sure kids get a grade and they graduate, but at some point they also have to demonstrate their understanding of the material. So if you have a kid who doesn't do anything, and I'm just being so honest, if you have a kid who doesn't do anything in the semester, has a 40, they do 2 weeks of a recovery class and get a 70, okay, yes, they've helped our graduation rate. They're on track to graduate. But what have they learned, and have we served them well? So those are some of the ideological arguments that the leadership team, and Lindsay, you've been in those meetings as a department chair, that we bounce back a lot of times. So, that's another theory is looking at how we do our recovery and repair compared to how some other schools do it.
That was my theory as well. We could have a 100% graduation rate if we wanted to.
Right. But thanks for asking, Lindsay. I appreciate it. And thanks I'm sorry if I didn't explain that well. Anything else there, folks?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, thanks, y'all. And, I will close this out by saying thanks for the support. One of the things I love is when that data went out to the community, I got a lot of responses with questions and what can we do? And, is my kid in danger of grad? So I sent some on to the counselors. I said, hey, this parent needs some advice and some help. So it did generate some debate, which is great. And I sent this out to the community, but as we all get together this time of year in a very difficult year and count our blessings, one of my biggest is the chance to serve here in the community, and our kids are phenomenal. So happy Thanksgiving to everybody. And that's really all I've got, unless you have questions for me. So thank you, Ms. Hunter.
Okay.
Dr. Shaw?
Yes, ma'am.
I have one question.
Sure.
And this is, it's the rumor mill, right?
Oh, good.
Yeah, that's always a fun place to be. And so I know it's the rumor mill because if this were true, we would have heard about it. Mm-hmm. But there is some discussion among some that kids won't return back to school after Thanksgiving.
Well, yeah, and I've heard a kid stop me in the hallway and said, hey, are we coming back after Thanksgiving? So, yeah, it's definitely out there. So here's what I can tell you is I've not gotten anything officially that said that. I've asked my boss, who's asked her boss, and there's nothing officially. Now, I will also say this. All of us see what's happening with the COVID infection rates in our community. I know the superintendent said that this is something he monitors. He did say, and some of you may be plugged into this, that there's going to be some conversations at the board meeting tomorrow. Right now, Ms. Trigg, there's nothing official I can say where I've heard anything, or even a credible rumor. I've just heard folks say that. Now, I've also heard some other school districts are thinking about the same thing in the metro area, but I'm really glad you asked, and I probably should have brought that up. But no, there's nothing official that I have heard for sure. But you're right. If we had heard that, certainly trying to get that rolling and make sure people know about it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Thanks for asking.
absolutely.
Okay, so I wanted to switch back to our discussion from last month of the goal setting and see if I can figure out how to share this. Hannah has sent out a whiteboard for us to fill out to kind of wrap up that discussion. So I'm going to see if, do y'all see 4 boxes? Brainstorming to support goals?
Yes.
Okay, so they basically just want us to fill this out as a follow-up to our conversation from last meeting to finish our discussion, I guess, of our goals. And so I feel like we've already done this first box, but we can kind of come back to that discussion where it seemed like we were interested in clearing incompletes. Does that sound about right? Any comments about that?
That's what I remember.
We kind of had a secondary conversation, and I don't know if this would go as a second goal or not, into some kind of increasing parent communication and some kind of like parent university or parent website. But mainly focus kind of back to the first one as to how can we support the parents to support their students to clear the incomplete. So is that something we want to put as a second goal or leave it as part of the first goal and maybe put it in as like how we might support these goals? Any thoughts?
Maybe put it in the section on how we want to support that goal.
Okay, so under here, see if I can figure out how to work this. So what was I saying? So parent support via a parent university or other parent assistance or something like that.
Laura, when you say parent university, what do you mean, please?
I am not completely sure and think it's something I've heard from the county level a few times with, like, if you look at other strategic plans or things like that, it might be something that's more common at the elementary school level. And it seems to be like some kind of parent, I don't know if it's like a one-time thing, like a one-night thing, or if it is a kind of ongoing parent-based
Well, we talked about at the last meeting, possibly creating like a website or something with video clips and things like that that are very like simple to let parents know like how to find the grades, how to see where their kids are not turning in, this and that. You know, we talked about maybe creating some sort of website, like encouraging them to check their emails so that they know that their kid is not turning in something. So some sort of like easy, not too wordy website.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so some kind of parent support website or it could even be a page on our school website, but with some kind of like short video tips for how they can support. I put support in there a lot, but whoa, I did. Parent support via a website with short video tips for supporting students.
For parent support via website, short video tips for supporting students.
I think another thing that might be helpful, I'm just thinking as a parent,
Yeah.
of 3 kids and busy, 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 like things like on the Facebook page, and this might come in with the communications committee, but like these video clips and stuff being sent out in social media, like where you just click on it because you're always on that, and it tells you like how to do certain things in a very brief, maybe funny way. I don't know, something for them to just look at real quickly. Not they don't have to read too much.
I'm trying. We have that communication, team at the school level,
Yeah.
and that might be a place to start with. I'm trying to figure out how to show all of this or change the font size, but this is the piece of technology I gave up on at the beginning of the school year, so I don't know how to use it, but this was what they wanted us to put it in. Is there, here. No, that didn't do it. Ooh, and I'm turning it sideways. Okay, well, I will play with that later so we don't have to use our time here. Nope, none of that. I can always fix this up later on, but work with communication team to share the videos.
Social media.
I would be curious to know if there is another way to figure out if your student has incompletes other than painstakingly going through Infinite Campus and every assignment. Because a student can have a great average. They can have a 80, 85, 90%, whatever, but still have incompletes. And the rooster hasn't come home to roost, but I don't know, however you say it.
Right.
So you have to, I mean, I don't know if there's an easier way to do it, but I mean, that's.
Yeah, and we've had the same question from the teacher side of it. I was in a conversation with some teachers this morning about what's the easiest way to find this. And at one point this spring, we could run a report and it would tell you how many people had too many incompletes or something like that. So we're trying to see if we can get that back, but I don't know if there's something from the parent side for that as well.
Yeah, that's the only way I've been able to look at it.
Well, like I have gotten personally, I've gotten like automated emails that I did not solicit. Like I didn't put in like send me an email, if my student has like under a grade point average or whatever, because his grade point average, his grade in the class is fine. But I've been getting automated emails, and I'm able to ask him. But the thing is, the parent has to check their email, which sometimes I don't know. So getting the parents to actually open and check the email, and I think that's the thing. If they get automated emails saying they're missing this, they're missing that, they have an incomplete in this, that means that the teacher doesn't have to do it for each student, because that's overwhelming.
Yeah.
I haven't seen an email like that.
Check the email. That's the thing.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything like that.
I've gotten 2.
Huh.
And it might be just some way of setting up notifications. Haley, I see your hand is up. Did you have a comment?
Yes, I just wanted to address like the notifications and the things that were going on with like the emails, like the getting weird emails and not getting emails. Under the how might you support these goals, the short video tips like for supporting students, and like we could also do that with parents, because I know that in Infinite Campus there's a way that you can like adjust your notifications so you only receive notifications for like attendance, or if you like get below a grade on like a certain assignment or something like that, that we could like instruct students and parents to do that. And so it could be more like, again, going back to the goal of like having clear communication. So that's something we could definitely include, because I know that's a feature, but a lot of people don't know about it. So
that would be the type of videos that we would need, is how do you set up Infinite Campus to send you notifications for various things. And sorry, I was going to quickly fill this one in too, because I just saw that that's an easy one. Okay, so
Maybe
yeah.
I do have something set up in it.
I'm sorry, I missed what you said. I couldn't hear it. But if we move back to the whiteboard, you know, we can continue our discussion, but as far as finishing this up, I think just how can we measure the progress? And it seems like that would just be by measuring the numbers of incompletes each semester. I don't know how much that goes along with the parent communication thing, but as far as measuring our goal of working to clear incompletes, then I think that would work. Does anyone have any other thoughts?
Question. Quarters are 9 weeks, right?
Well, we don't really do quarters at the high school level, but they send out progress reports every 9 weeks or six weeks. Okay.
The reason I asked, I couldn't remember what the increments are for the progress reports. But if you wait an entire semester, that seems like a really long time to figure out your incompletes. It seems like you'd want to measure that before you get to the end of the semester. Because isn't the goal is to clear the incompletes? So you have to know at some point.
Well, I think there's a difference between measuring our progress towards clearing the incomplete and monitoring the number of incompletes in order to address it at the time. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I feel like the thing to measure to see how we're doing would be how many incompletes at the end of the semester. But as far as addressing incompletes more periodically, that might be something more along the how would you support these goals?
Yeah,
and
I
the
agree.
things we come up with there.
I agree.
I mean, the alternative is that, and you know, I was reading today on the grading policies for the school that the reason we put the eyes in is to provide, you know, some grace for those students who are in situations they can't control, right? But really the best way to control the eyes is to put them in as zeros when they actually affect the grade, right? Because then you see the grade drop and you go, oh my God, why'd my grade drop? Oh, I got a 0. The eyes just kind of, you know, keep you bouncing along thinking you have a 93 from the Who Am I poster that you made the first week of school, which is, you know, some situations that we have. And so I don't know how much of a long-term situation this will be, you know, as long as the county tells us that we can keep giving eyes. But that's, you know, if we're talking about all kinds of different remedies, that is one. I've been reading on Facebook that there are some high schools going rogue, and even though the county is saying you cannot replace the eyes, they're doing, you know, they're putting in a 1 instead of an I, and then the grade drops drastically. They're putting in a 50.
Val,
What's that?
We're talking about doing that. I wasn't going to say anything. We hadn't talked.
Yay! You didn't. I did. I mean, I think that's the only thing that's going to wake anybody up, parents or students.
The only issue is, and I'm curious for your input. It's going to be more work for teachers. They're going to have to go to all the summatives, not the formatives. Those still don't count. They're going to have to go to the summatives, change them to numeric grades, and then before grades post, go back and change them to incomplete. So now, Val, I'm curious, or Lindsay or Laura, I'm curious for your input because I don't see your grade book every day, so I don't know how much manual labor that really is. But I'm going to be honest with you. I've emailed some of the department chairs and a couple have replied and said yes, because it will wake some people up so they're not seeing that 93 from the Who Am I project anymore.
True story. In the end, it's less work because in the end, it'll wake those kids up who have eyes, right? Okay. And it's not super hard work. And putting the zeros in is actually going, parents, I'm joking, but it's going to be kind of glorious putting the zeros in instead of the I's for some students, not all. And I'm joking. I love my kids and I teach at-risk kids. But when they don't feel it. And I have 2 high schoolers myself, and they don't feel it until it affects that bottom line. It's kind of like a credit card.
Yes.
So, and I
I
didn't
agree.
say that was one of the things we were talking about to try and get some awareness and get our seniors on track. I didn't say it during this meeting because we hadn't talked to our school leadership yet. But that I'd emailed them with some ideas. And since you brought it up, because I know it's out there on the unofficial Facebook page, so I figured since you brought it up, I'd reference it. So thanks, Ms.
And for
Pettit.
what it's worth, the Facebook parents think it's a good idea.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
I've seen it. I'm not reading it, but people have sent it to me. Many people have.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
I second that motion.
Okay, we'll
All in
vote it
favor?
here.
Okay, so are there any other things that we could put under this supporting the goals? The only other thing I could think of is maybe some like funding to support things that the administration comes up with. But that would be more of just us supporting something they're already doing. It wouldn't necessarily be something that we're kind of pushing for. But does that sound like something worth adding?
Mm-hmm. Because I think long-term, it may be having somebody sitting in the media center after school helping kids clear incompletes, or having somebody sit in the media center during 4th period to help kids clear incompletes. So there may be some funding that could be helpful.
Okay, well then I think we've probably done enough of this for now and for the county people. And this seems to summarize kind of where our conversations have been going. So I will close this and go back to our
I have one
agenda.
question, though.
Uh-huh.
We talked last meeting about students who really are having a hard time, learning from home and all that stuff. And I don't know where this would fit on here, or if it would, because Hannah said, could we do both or all? We have to pick something. But there are kids out there who really are like, not the ones who can do the work and not doing it, but the ones who are just like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. I cannot learn in front of a computer. They need somebody to help. So I don't know what kind of, I don't know if that's another goal or whatever, as far as clearing the incompletes, or how else we can support these kids who really, really just are having a hard time teaching themselves algebra when they're not in front of their teacher, for example.
Yeah.
That there's a good group of kids who are really legitimately having a hard time.
And I agree with you. And I've got a couple kids, because I teach special ed, that I've met with, and they're not coming to school because their parents want them to stay home, which is a good idea, right? But even when I try helping them one-on-one online, like, it doesn't work. And so it's almost like until they're back face to face, there's like, I'm at a loss too, because you're right. That's one of the biggest problems.
So is there some sort of, I don't know, tutoring with the PPE and all that, where they can come, like, almost kind of phase 1-ish, where they make appointments and they come in?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I just wonder if that's something within the scope of SGC, or if that's something more in the instructional end of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because there are some programs out there, it's just, I don't know how well they're being utilized as far as peer tutoring, like from the different subject areas.
Or getting the parents even know that these things are available
Mm-hmm.
to them. What are they? Because I haven't heard of any. I personally haven't, but.
So maybe it's more of a communication. Increased communication of student supports.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
That might be something to reach out with counseling or even Val again as well. Or even maybe it just falls into that top one about the parent tips, and if your child needs this type of help, here's a place to reach out or something like that. But let me go back and read what I put. A student tutoring supports, or maybe even some of the other stuff.
Yeah.
Does that sound, are we good with that?
Yep.
Okay, then I'm gonna switch back over to our agenda, and we can leave that for now. Me. There we go. Okay, so if we're good with the goal setting roadmap now, then we'll move on to the Superintendent Advisory Council updates. And student members, did you have an update for us about that grading policy or anything else really?
Yes. So me and Kirsten had our meeting with Dr. Looney and the other superintendent student advisory members yesterday, and we discussed the grading policy, student bill of rights, and Kirsten, there's something else that we were going to. Am I missing something? No, I think it was bill of rights.
Yeah, like Haley's gonna talk about the grading policy and the Bill of Rights, and then I'm just gonna go over the text for help thing. I think someone mentioned it, or it was on one of the agendas, and then we were just gonna talk about like a little tiny service project thing that we were thinking of doing. But Haley, you can go ahead, and then I'll go.
Yeah, so we did ask about the grading policy and if there were going to be any changes to it. And Dr. Looney said that they're pretty sure they're going to go back to the normal policy for second semester. So it's just going to be that like recovering if you get below, I believe it's a 70, and like just all of the regular consequences that go along with that policy. There's no changes that are going to be made for the rest of the semester. But about the like putting incompletes versus zeros in the grade book, I know that it would kind of be, I mean, like, I know students would probably be frustrated, but I think that's like the only way to get students to do the work, because some people probably aren't doing it like intentionally, but I feel like they might not know that they have those grades in the book, or they might not know how to check them. Again, going along with that communication standpoint, like they are not sure what an incomplete means, because they may think it's like an excused, I don't know. But I feel like putting those zeros would clue students into like, hey, like do this assignment because we need it done. But yeah, so grading policy, pretty sure they're gonna go back to normal second semester. If that changes, we'll obviously let you guys know, but I don't think that we're gonna do anything else with that as of now. But and then second, the Bill of Rights. I think we're going to have one more work session. We've pretty much got a really good draft down for that. But I think we're going to do one more work session just to kind of flesh out some supplemental documents that we're going to go along with that are a little more specific, and like elaborating on some of the rights. But that is on its way to the board for a vote. And that'll be public, and like once we get everything finalized and established with that, we'll obviously push out the information so students know that that is available, and like parents know that that's available, and so people can be like aware of their rights and also their responsibilities when they're at school. But that's pretty much all I have about the grading policy and the Bill of Rights. Does anybody have any questions before I turn it over to Kirsten? Cool. Kirsten, go for it, girl.
Okay, awesome. I also just wanted to say, like, as a student, just like going off of what Haley said and what others have said, is I do agree that putting the zero in is just obviously like a kind of, I guess, startling reminder. I know for me, like if I like accidentally forget to turn in an assignment and then I like see the 0 and like see my grade drop, obviously students know that that can be changed, but it's like a notice that is, yeah. So another thing Haley and I wanted to just mention in this meeting is, I know like a lot of our time and energy is focused on mental health right now, and these are obviously unprecedented times, and especially going into like the holiday season, like a lot of students need support in different aspects, and there is this service called Text for Help. I bet everyone's heard of it, but Fulton County is kind of revamping it and remarketing it, and there is a PSA that will be released. Haley and I couldn't be, we were like invited, but we couldn't be a part of it, but that will be coming out. And Haley and I will start marketing that as well, because I think it's like a really cool service and just not a lot of students know about it and know the details of it. So that's another like mental health thing that we can like put on the list and like kind of have that as a resource that students like really need to be educated on, so they know that that's available to them. And then another thing, I don't want to like derail too much, but Haley and I were thinking of a service project, like obviously this is like related to student council, but I know a lot of you on here are like teachers or administration, and we wanted to like give back to you guys during like the holiday season, and we tried to do a reverse trick-or-treating thing where students would bring in cleaning supplies, because obviously that's very limited and also necessary for all the classrooms and everything. So we tried to do that where students would bring in PPE and cleaning supplies, and we would give them candy in return for Halloween. And then like we had school canceled and stuff, so we wanted to like do a different one around Christmas time. And I just wanted to ask if anyone like had any other kind of ideas that you guys would appreciate, or like if staff were looking for like specific items, or like, I don't know. We kind of just want your input so we can come up with like a good idea for a service project. But that's like kind of what we were thinking.
Yeah, we added this onto like our personal agenda real quick when Dr. Shaw, you were going over the budget as far as like cleaning supplies and different things that you're providing for the teachers. And we was like, oh, like let's just talk about that, because we tried to do it during Halloween and then the hurricane hit and we had school canceled. So that was awkward. But we were planning on doing something later on where students like would bring in PPE for you guys, because we know that like obviously going into the stores, like you can only buy one per person, and you have to spend your own money on that. And so we're just trying to figure out a way that we could provide for you guys, especially like during COVID and all that stuff. But if you guys have a different idea, if you have any ideas about that, let us know, because we can make it happen.
Yeah.
Well, if you can find them, the Lysol wipes. I think I've gone through about 15 containers since we came back. And now I can't find any.
So Haley, we had a conversation about maybe trying to do the reverse trick or treat, except call it something more seasonal, I guess, after Thanksgiving. Are you guys still thinking about that, or do you want to go in a different direction?
I think we'll definitely still do it, but like center it more around the holidays, because we were trying to do it this week before Thanksgiving, but then classes got sent home and it was the week before the break, and we just felt like it wasn't quite the time. But assuming that we do go back next week or like after Thanksgiving break, we're planning on doing like a week where people bring stuff in, where we get volunteers from student council to help out with that, and that we encourage students to bring things in.
I think that's fantastic. I really do.
And center it around like it's the holiday season, like giving gifts, that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
That would be
great.
great.
And also about going back after Thanksgiving break, I did ask that question yesterday at the meeting, because I was like, a lot of rumors going around that we're not going back, or like what's going on. And like Dr. Shaw was saying, Dr. Looney and like different Fulton County representatives are meeting with the Fulton Board of Health, and like the Fulton Board of Health will like recommend things. And he said he doesn't see that the whole county is going to be shut down after Thanksgiving break, but obviously, like if the Fulton Board of Health is going to recommend it, then, but yeah, so it's all the Board of Health, what they recommend, but I just wanted to put that.
Well done, y'all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
Well, then we just have committee updates. So, Mrs. Trigg, you want to give us an update of budget and finance?
Yes, ma'am. So thank you very much for sending out, Ms. Hunter and Dr. Williams and I worked to craft an email and an application for this application season. So thank you very much, ladies. Ms. Hunter sent it out. And yesterday I received one application from Mr. Moon for some technology items for band that will actually, I didn't read the all of the details, but it looks like it can have an impact on the broader school community. I don't have a visual on what he's talking about, so Ms. Hunter, you'll have a better idea. But we have one application so far.
And I had some questions, but not an actual application about something to do with 3D printing. So it sounded kind of expensive, whatever it is. So we'll see if we get some more information about that one as well.
Okay.
But yeah. So.
That's it so far.
Okie doke. Then is Miss Piard here? I guess not. So we will skip over the communications update, which means we are almost done. We need to set agenda items for our next meeting, which is actually not until January 6th. So we do not have a December meeting scheduled. Usually so hard to get that in.
Miss Hunter, didn't we talk about, I'd have to go back and look at my notes because it's not on the top of my head, but it seems like the three of us talked about potentially putting in another meeting?
Yes, and I think I did email Hannah, and I can't remember what were we saying we needed that meeting for? Were we going to actually vote on things, or was it just an informational type thing?
It was informational.
Okay. Let's look at that timeline again, and then it might be a better idea to move up the February date as opposed to having a whole nother meeting. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because I think the issue we were looking at is the January meeting's really early to kind of compensate for the fact there's no December meeting, but then the February meeting was really late.
Right.
So we end up going like 6 or 5 weeks between meetings. So we might be able to solve that just by moving up the February meeting.
Okay.
Or we could just have a budget meeting and a subcommittee and discuss, and then we decide what we want to present to the full SGC at the February meeting.
I think we wanted to move and I'll find my notes. I thought I had it in this notebook. I think we wanted to move the February meeting up.
Okay.
Because we have to spend our funds, for the years out. So we need time to get things executed.
Okay, well, let me see what the procedure, does anyone have a problem if we do end up moving that meeting up in February? Okay, I'll look at it and we can discuss it at the next. I'll make a note to add it to our agenda for the January meeting if we need to move the February meeting up.
And Ms. Hunter, normally, and we haven't seen a timeline yet, but normally that's right about the time that I need to present our next year's school budget to the Governance Council too. So that may not be a bad idea.
Okay, to move that up.
Would you usually have your budget ready by about mid-February?
I think it's usually, I have to go back and look at last year, but normally it is right about mid-February, Valentine's Day, maybe a little later in the month that it's about ready to go. Yep.
Okay, so we could move it up probably by at least a week or so. So
we should get that information. Usually it's mid-late December, we get that whole timeline.
Okay, so move up. Okay, is there anything else to discuss at the January meeting? I would say we probably need to add something about that like website and maybe see if we can firm up some more plans about that or get a committee together for that. And then we'll see what else comes up.
And I didn't want to interrupt, but Miss Murphy is running our school website now. It's very user-friendly. It's a new Blackboard platform. So adding a page to that effect with that information on, I think would be pretty easy. We just have to be pretty clear about what we want it to accomplish, but it's certainly doable.
Okay.
Yep.
I think the hardest part would be getting people to actually film the videos and getting the content type thing. But if we can get a team together working on that, then that should probably be the way to handle it. Okay, well then, do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I move to adjourn the meeting.
And do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Who did
Dylan's
that?
not here to do it.
This
That
is
was
Lindsay Davis Bryan.
Okay. Well then, vote to adjourn the meeting. Do we vote on that? I don't remember. I think we're just done.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you. Stay safe.
Same to you. Bye,
Thanks.
guys.
Bye.
Right.